Welcome to Ted Tibbett and Michael Paul. If you have a comment, you can call us now at 261-0898 or pound 981 on any ceasefire device. Our email is newsradiomornings@gmail.com.
And what a hot morning we've got. It's 7:16, 16 after 7. We got Michael, Paul, and Gene Valentino.
Yeah, and the studio crowd seems to like that, Gene. So good morning to you.
Well, let me get back up on stage. I'm just shaking a few hands down in the audience. Oh, there's Ted Tibbett. He doesn't look older than us. He looks our age, Michael.
Yeah, well, you know, I'll tell you something, Ted. He's doing pretty good since he had his heart surgery and stopped drinking.
Hey, welcome back, Ted. You sound good.
I tell you what, I recommend it for both of y'all at one point in your life.
That's right. Yeah, well, no, you can only party for so long, Ted, and then one day you got to hang it up.
That's right. If you get to that point where they put you on the top shelf and say you're pickled.
Yeah, that's it.
That door in life.
Sorry, yeah. It's always good to have you, Gene. One of our faithful P1 listeners, we call them, has pegged you a long time ago as the Velvet Hammer because you're so nice when you hit people on the head. And you know, I love listening to you talk about the issues of the day, and our audience has grown fond of you here in the Pine Belt. And so we love having you on Friday. Welcome in. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Michael. Hello, Ted. And Ted, glad to hear you're back and in good shape. You know, this is a real treat for me every Friday morning. I get to chat with you in the Pine Belt about some of the issues. I go off in the rest of the day shaking my head saying, what the heck did I say this morning to Michael and Ted? Oh, my God. I mean, so here, let me just...
How we record it.
You go back and listen to say, what'd you say that for, you ding dong? I mean,
I think he did say that.
Oh my God. Hey, I gotta tell you, before we start, I gotta reflect. You know, there's a ton of things, a ton of stories at the door that we're listening to, but the one that drives me nuts, and I've talked about the 3 Ds, the distract, deflect, divert. Well, I call it now a tragedy of deflection by Mr. Joe Biden, who has used 3 times now, discussed the death of his son, Beau, in different situations. He pulls the tragedy card out again and again to talk about the poor me situation about him, his family, and the loss of his son.
This guy is fake on a different level.
Exactly. You can't make this up. This guy has gone too far at using the personal crisis within his own family, a private matter, to garner or leverage sympathy. And most recently, at the anniversary of our fallen heroes having left of Afghanistan, making military heroes, some of whom came back with fewer limbs than they went with, are now, well, you have a problem, but my problem's worth, I just lost my son. Well, if you're president of the United States, how dare you not show the sympathy and concern, and on the day of the funeral be looking at your watch to see how soon we can get out of here? Look,
he always makes it about him, Gene. It's about him and his loss, not the people that he's going there to honor.
That's exactly my concern. And now I look at the broader picture and I asked a more fundamental question. If he is so stupid and incompetent to do that and abuse his own family that way, what does Beijing, China have on Joe Biden?
Absolutely.
Everything about this Joe and Hunter scandal, which I'm about to talk about, which really lit me up recently, has prevented the American system from going forward with an indictment against Hunter or Joe or both. Why? And the question is, they're stacking the deck to keep your attention diverted, deflected, and distracted away from the real issue. And the real issue is he's owned by these foreign adversaries, China, Russia, and Ukraine. I'm tempted to say, Michael, we should not get out of Ukraine and support the people, because the people are victims to political antics the people are not aware of, and we must protect Ukraine like we protected Europe, NATO or no NATO. Granted, but sitting against that backdrop, you've got proof that he was bribing and extorting with the Ukrainian prosecutor to be terminated, to be removed from office because he was after his son Hunter for wrongdoing in Ukraine. What are we really putting those millions and billions of dollars into in Ukraine? If it is true, we have so much going on right now with payback in full view. Might it be that Ukraine's paying back the Biden crime family as well with the money we're giving them?
Do you know what this is starting to look like, Gene? This is starting to look like one of those Nigerian prince scams. Yeah. Where the Nigerian prince says, hey, man, I got $30 million. I got to get it out of the country. And, and they said it. They used to send them on fax. Now it's on email. But we've all seen that story. But this is what it's starting to look like.
Well, I heard your comments before we started today about Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, possibly switching parties, whether it's Republican or independent. He's going to have Jim Justice, the governor, going against him if he decides to run. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned that the Biden, you and I talked about this before, the Democrat Party will disintegrate and melt into nothing, or it'll be transformed into something so unrecognizable by our children and grandchildren.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. We watch this, but now I'm going to tell you something. I think I'm starting to get a feeling, and I didn't have this feeling just a couple, 2 or 3 weeks ago. You and I have talked about this a number of different times. I'm starting to get the feeling that I really believe that Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, the Biden crime family are going to end up paying the price for this. I really think it's going to happen. And here's why. When you see what they're doing to Donald Trump, the only thing that the Republicans can do to equalize this is to take President Biden to impeachment.
Yeah.
It's the only thing. And look, there's more evidence today, right now, than they had against Richard Nixon when they started impeachment hearings against him.
Yeah, well, speaking of evidence, you hit the nail on the head again, Michael. This gentleman in Maryland, I think was a police chief or sheriff in Baltimore area, Daryl D'Souza. So he gets 10 months in prison and for not paying $67,000.
I saw that.
In taxes not paid.
Yeah.
Okay, so he pleaded guilty, 3 counts for failure to pay his individual taxes on that money, compared to a gentleman by the name of Hunter Biden, who has $1.2 million in taxes not paid. He is on some sort of probation that he screwed up recently and was expected to plead not guilty to these 2 counts of willful and failure to pay these taxes. Now, if that isn't a 2-tiered justice system, I don't know what is. And you might as well call it racism, because Daryl D'Souza in Baltimore is an African-American, and obviously he paid the price in a way that Hunter Biden is not. So James Comer, head of House Oversight Committee, is now to subpoena the Biden family, not just Joe or Hunter. And I suspect more will be revealed.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, talking about the money that he owes the government for back taxes that he didn't pay. What a crazy thing. How this guy takes money from foreign countries. He's not registered as a foreign lobbyist, whatever you want to call it. There's a law specifically that connects that.
Yeah.
If you make money and you bring it into the country and you don't pay your taxes, there's a threshold of $100,000. Heard an IRS agent talking about this the other day on some program. And they say if you owe more than $100,000, that's when they come after you. They come after you with everything. If it's below 100,000, they leave that up to the local, whoever the local attorney is that's handling the case, the federal attorney for the government. But when it gets to be 100K, the IRS themselves, they start coming after you.
Isn't it amazing? You know, they've got this two-tier standard of justice, and now we see it in plain view. And even the Democrat Party, when you say getting impeached, it's not just about Joe Biden. It's about, his DOJ and the FBI folks. Hey, there's been more going on than I don't even know what to talk about. First, the GOP January 6th committee, the committee destroyed all the records.
Yeah, that's Benny Thompson from Mississippi was heading that.
Barry Loudermilk, a Republican from Georgia, congressman.
Quick story. This is no kidding. Benny Thompson was the guy when he was a mayor in a small town in North Mississippi in what we call the Delta of Mississippi. He wanted, listen to this, to take that part of Mississippi and make it its own country. He wanted to leave the United States, be their own country. This is the guy that was trying to put Donald Trump in jail.
Yeah, even at the local level in communities around the nation, you find certain suburbs or hamlets wanting to break off and become their own township or city within the county government. Why? Because they're not happy with the county or state government. My problem is more government is what you're asking for, which does not solve the problem. We need less government. Therefore, if you don't like what's going on in your government, fix it through impeachment, fix it through ordinances of law or state statute that get things reformed quicker. And one of the things I want reformed quicker is in a more immediate way to get rid of these crooks that have been inappropriately elected by us. That's our fault. We got them in office now, and I don't want to wait 2 to 4 years to get out. We got to have an immediate triggering event through what I was referring to as a special magistrate system to get them out immediately, because the damage being done now is real bad. We're looking at China, which is really having problems of their own. They better worry about an insurrection of their own within their own country. Their supply chain network and supply of goods and services from around the world have dropped about 25%. They have made a huge commitment to 1.2 billion people in China that the Chinese Communist Party fears the worst, that may turn on them. And as a result, China's not going to be able to move as quickly as they want. That's why they're pushing this Taiwanese initiative to take their attention off the problem of delivering productivity and wealth to the citizens over there. They've got their bag of problems as well.
Yeah, and all we can do is hope that their bag of problems bust open and gets bigger. That's all we can hope.
Real quick, if I have time before we close, last Saturday night, I'm listening to politicians talk about the use of deadly force needed at our southern border. I agree. I'm ready. The bold and brazen folks in the south of our border have increased our migrant count again to over 1,000 per day. 98 different countries invading us right now, from Iran, Syria, Russia, China, and here we are.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. That's the music. We got to go. But let me just tell you something. They had people coming across the border the other day with military rifles. You pop a few of those, and let me tell you something. That'll stop.
That's the only reason I want Donald Trump back, Michael. Let's knock this issue down.
Have a good weekend.
Best to you.